We are live. Hello, San Diego. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Claire McKee, and this is Real Talk San Diego, bringing you the business of life in America's finest city. As always, the show is presented by our loyal partners at 5 Star Escrow and First American Title. And today, we're discussing signs of financial abuse in your marriage and how to divorce a narcissist. I know you're all wondering about this, and we're about to bring it to you live. So joining me today is my friend Laurie Itkin. She's a certified divorce financial analyst, and she's better known as the options lady around here. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. We've got some meaty topics today.
We do, and you wore your bright, fun, sunshiny color
yes,
to talk about
black.
The serious stuff. And also joining us is Laura McGee. She is a mediator and divorce coach with Leave Strong Divorce Services. Happy to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
We're going to have some fun.
Yeah,
I assure you of it. Even though it's a little bit serious, we still like to have fun here. So don't forget, we are live. We'd love to hear from you, our live audience. So drop us a comment, ask us some questions, and we will say hello on air. And there is Lale coming through. Hi, ladies. Thanks for watching, Lale. She has been a guest on the show and always appreciate her support. So, Laurie, before we get started with the nitty-gritty, you have some seminars coming up that we're going to talk about.
I do. So all of us here at the table know about this issue, but you may not know about it. It has to do with spousal support. As you might have heard, there's been a change in the tax law, making spousal support no longer tax deductible beginning January 1st, 2009. Why do you care? You care because if you have been thinking about divorce for a while, you know it's inevitable. It's really probably a good idea to get that thing done this year if there are disparities in income between you and your spouse.
Okay.
That's usually when spousal support comes into play. You may also care about this if you've been in a long-term marriage. You may also care about this if you are a stay-at-home mom. You may also care about this if you are a very high wage earner and you want that tax deduction. All I'm going to say is that no matter how you slice it, the IRS is going to be taking more money from families and the pie is just going to be smaller. So whether the payer of spousal support is paying less and the recipient's receiving less, whatever, it's just less. So I'm holding a 60-minute seminar on Tuesday, May 22nd at 5:45 p.m. It's a weird time, but because people are often late with traffic, we're going to start at 6, 5:45 p.m. We're going to spend 60 minutes on spousal support, on some of the strategies you may need to think about if you're contemplating divorce or currently going through one and it's sort of delayed. And I'm going to have a family law attorney with me. And you can sign up on my website, theoptionslady.com. That's theoptionslady.com. And it's $15, wine and snacks and some heavy topic and your opportunity to ask questions. I'm also doing it tomorrow, but that's pretty filled already. So if you're desperate to come tomorrow, private message me on Facebook and we'll see if we can't get you in.
Okay, cool. And we're actually approaching a deadline for getting it in before the end of this year, right? When the tax law changes.
I mean, we in California, we have a 6-month waiting period. Some states have no waiting periods. Some states have different waiting periods. And so, you know, it's in order to try to get this finalized before December 31st, if you're thinking about filing for divorce, you've got to do it very soon, very soon.
Yeah, and similar to your entire business with wealth management, like, do it now, don't wait, right? Like, we're in that same scenario.
I mean, people are still going to get divorced after January 1st, of course, but this is just going to be less money to go around, I'm sorry to say. So it's really important, even if you decide not to do anything, I want you to be informed with the information you need to make a decision.
And remind us, you can go straight to the website to sign up for that next one.
Theoptionslady.com, and it will be at Hera Hub in Sorrento Valley, 5:45 p.m., Tuesday, May 22nd.
You can come right after work. It's perfect.
Yes, right after work.
So we are talking financial abuse today, and you're actually going to share with us some signs or symptoms, if you will, of what to look for that you may be in that same situation yourself.
Right. You know, but before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about Laura, because I know that Laura is also a divorce coach and mediator, and so I want you to be able to weigh in because she also sees signs of financial abuse. So don't be shy. All right.
Hop on in.
Sharing. We'll all share. So. You know, I came across this topic because, you know, I work with men and women, but honestly, most of the people that come to me are women They come to meet with me because they're just really scared. They want to know what their financial life will be like if they get divorced. A lot of these women have not had sex with their spouse in months or years.
Wow.
They are roommates, or they just are waiting till the kids go away to school. And when they meet with me, and it's really the number one issue holding them back from leaving their spouse is that financial worry. And so the women talk to me. And also, I don't want to just blame men as financial abusers. There are plenty of women who are financial abusers. I'm just talking from my experience.
Sure.
And some of the things that I have learned from women that come to me is quite often, especially if the man owns his own business, is a small business owner, there will be times when he needs to borrow money for his business, and he's jeopardizing the financial health of the family, of the house, getting the family into debt, and the wife is often pressured to sign, to co-sign on loans and so forth, and when she asks, they tell her, you don't worry about it, or I don't have time. Same thing with tax returns. A lot of people are not, believe it or not, they're not honest with their tax returns. Well, that can come and hurt you as the spouse.
Yeah.
And women are pressured to sign the tax returns, not understanding what's happening. There are women who have come to me who are the breadwinners in the family. The man just doesn't work for whatever reason. He can't find a job, or he's lazy, or whatever. I mean, there's many, I'm not blaming people, but there's all reasons for unemployment. But how many women have come to me and said, I cannot leave my husband. He keeps threatening he's going to go after me for spousal support. And he may have a right for the spousal support, but that kind of threatening to keep you. And the other thing I find often is a lot of men, I don't want to say a lot, because again, I work with so many couples that are really delightful to each other, but sometimes the men will not encourage women to further their education. They won't encourage the women to develop their careers because they want these women to be financially dependent on them. And we hear about obviously physical abuse and emotional abuse, but financial abuse is a serious topic too.
Yeah.
The shaming that goes on. How we all have different values around money, and the spouse, this happens to men and women, the spouse that will shame the other spouse. You're frivolous with money, you don't understand money, you're stupid, you're terrible, all these kinds of things. And it just leads me to encourage both men and women, become financially literate. Don't assume your spouse is doing the right thing or the legal thing. You just need to really become more aware of this, even if it's a topic you won't want to deal with, because I'm just so sick of seeing women mostly being financially abused in marriages.
Yeah.
And you've noticed. What have you noticed?
Well, certainly in my role as a divorce coach, where oftentimes it's typically women, although I definitely work with men as well. They're coming to me wanting help with an exit strategy. They're like, how do I get out of this marriage? Same thing we were talking about. Oftentimes the first place I send them is Lori, saying, you might know every affair your husband's had and where he spent money in Vegas with somebody, and you might know all this intimate that he doesn't even know details about his philanderings. What do you know about your financial community? Because that's your real superpower. We're in a no-fault divorce state. You're not going to get more support or more financial assets allocated to you because your spouse was a philanderer. So if you don't take complete responsibility for really knowing your financial well-being, a lot of times I find the women are spending the money, it shows up in the bank account. They're like, oh, I don't know, he just puts it in the bank account and I spend it. He knows all about the long-term planning, the savings, or the debt that's being incurred. And they have this wall between them, divide and conquer. And I'm like, okay, be a sleuth about your finances.
Right.
And really invest in knowing that, because there's no other partnership. You would never do a business financial partnership and not know anything about your books.
Right, just let your business partner run everything and you just say, okay, sure.
Right, and if you did, to your folly. So if you do it in your marriage, to your folly as well.
So it seems like, oh, divide and conquer, that's just the natural, you do this, I'll handle this, but really you're doing yourself a disservice by not empowering yourself with that type of knowledge.
Oh yeah, because a lot of women have said to me, well, I'll just file as an innocent spouse if my husband's business is audited. Well, no, it's a joint tax return. You will be jointly audited, and getting protection as an innocent spouse is very difficult. Now, I do have 2 tips, because lots of times women will come to me and say, I have no access to any of the financial accounts. How do I even know what we have? I don't even know if we have retirement plans. I know nothing. And so there are 2 tips. Basically, you can request, if you have filed joint tax returns with your spouse, you can, for a small fee, request transcripts from the IRS. You do not need your spouse's approval or a signature. You may need some information, though, like you may need to know the account of your mortgage. You may need a credit card, because they have to verify it's you. And so that may be a stumbling block, but most people have that information. And if you're going to meet with somebody like me, a CDFA, and you want to understand, well, maybe what child and spousal support will be like, I need those tax returns. I need to see the history of income in the house. And so you can request those from the IRS. Another thing to do is to get a copy of your credit report. You have no idea, what if he signed for you, or what if she signed for you? And so getting it, so these are 2 things you can do on your own. Contact the IRS for copies of past returns if your CPA won't give them to you, and also find out, what your credit report is. Get a credit report run. And that'll give you some starting points.
So in both of your experience thus far, I'm just curious, do you have any advice on how to have that difficult conversation with the spouse who has kept you in the dark all this time? Where does that begin?
Yeah. These are, I always, even telling my kids growing up, the most difficult conversation is always the most important conversation. So do you just skip it because it's hard? The point is, you're running a business together. Your marriage is a business.
Business of life, really.
Right. And you have to negotiate, if one's a spender and one's the squirrel, if one thinks getting the purse is important versus the college savings, that's a negotiation. And if your marriage doesn't have fruitful negotiation and an ongoing process of navigating the finances, you're probably going to be headed for divorce sooner than later.
Or, I have met with couples that are not getting divorced, couples that want me as a third-party facilitator, sort of like mediation, but not really
financial
mediation.
mediation, really.
Yeah,
exactly.
where they have different values of spending and saving, and sometimes it's all about just giving tools about how to track, giving tips, giving options. Again, never judging anybody, because when the husband and the wife are arguing with each other, they're judging each other. And so having somebody like me, and some financial advisors will do that. It's very helpful. You go to a therapist to help your marriage. Why not go to a financial advisor?
Well, it's financial therapy.
It is financial therapy.
I can't tell you how many couples, when they're finished mediating, say to me, God, we so should have done this while we were married.
Really?
Both from how to really navigate a parenting plan and give each other some time off. So one person's not carrying the real heavy load of parenting, and the other person's checked out. They're like, wow, I've become a better parent, because now I'm actually really focused on parenting when I am with my child, and I'm really focused on me when I'm not. And they're seeing value in expanding their career on that basis. They're also realizing, wow, I got put on a budget. I was living on a budget. Now I really am invested in understanding my future, because I had to consider that my future just got turned upside down. And this amazing thing, the very cathartic reality of people divorce in a more peaceful way, and they keep most of their resources in their family instead of in the litigator's pockets, that they usually are transformed through this process into better parents, more financially savvy people, more responsible and accountable to their own life plan. So ironically, I think a lot of people, if they do it, a mediated process, come out of this in front of the game.
Have you ever experienced, you sat down with a couple and went through this process and they were like, yeah, maybe we won't split up?
Julia wants some recommended resources.
I think you can recommend some resources.
For
what kinds of resources? Financial, you mean?
Well, she may want financial or legal resources, but so anyway, I think, so Julia, both Laura and I give complimentary consultations. You can just have a brief phone call with us, and what's beep? Oh, that's your beeping.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't know I brought my cell phone here with me, but I'm getting phone calls, so we'll just pretend that
very
wasn't
popular.
happening.
It's popular.
It's the White House calling her for a meeting. Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me. I need to take this.
So definitely, and I think both of us, if we know more about anyone's situations, we have lots of resources. We're always
we're like a hub, what do you need?
What do you need? Yes.
That's part of both of our jobs when you're helping people, the wheels coming off the bus of their life, right? and they need support figuring out how to keep making it down this road of life.
Right.
And one of the simple resources that I use with men and women is mint.com. It's a free application. You can basically link your checking savings account, your retirement account, any accounts you want, and it will sort of tell you what you're spending, group it into an easy thing. I mean, I've spent, an hour with a couple of people showing this, and they're like, I had no idea, this is great, I didn't know. It gives you the freedom to spend more in certain areas and less in certain areas.
I have an app just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you use? Because there's a bunch of them.
I think I had Mint, and I use something called Acorns.
Acorns
right
Yeah.
good
now.
too.
Acorns
Yep.
popular.
And there's Personal Capital, and there's a whole bunch out there.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
And
We're
it's at your
tracking our
fingertips.
steps and our calories and our everything,
Right.
whether we sleep. Shouldn't we be tracking our money?
That's
Because that's
right.
how we sleep better.
Hello.
Right, but here's, because we're going to talk about divorcing a narcissist in a minute, and to have the money conversation while you're married with a narcissist is very difficult. I don't think it's hard to do it, because once you question a narcissist, I'm concerned about this, or why are we doing this, or this and that, they get very defensive. They don't want to justify themselves. Then you're the horrible person who doesn't trust the narcissist. And so if you feel like there are signs of financial abuse in your marriage, if you are fortunate that you're married to most people who are not narcissists, I think you can broach the subject and say, look, I'm really concerned. What will happen if you die tomorrow? I want to know what the plan is so I can care for our family. Or if you got sick, or if your business, something happened to your business, or you just, if you approach these conversations in a caring way, not threatening way.
Yeah.
Like, I want to help.
I wanna
if
help,
something bad
right.
happens, I want to be able to help
Absolutely.
the situation and not be like, well.
But we're all, well, you're not married, we've been married, I'm married, still married, you've been married, you have a boyfriend,
Counts for
anytime, money is a very emotional issue, and people do not like to justify what they do with the money. So again, if you can do it yourself with your spouse, if you need to have a third party, that's great too.
Absolutely. So neither of you are psychologists, but
Yeah.
there is some level of therapy to your business when you're working with the people, right? Because you have to have a general understanding about who they are and what their situation is to truly be able to help. So I'm curious, since we are on the topic of narcissists, what have your experiences been thus far, and is there a happy ending on the other side of it?
Yeah, when Julia had a comment here, dealing with a narcissist is important.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very important to do it correctly and safely.
Strategically, if you will.
Yeah.
Keep
So-
listening, Julia. We've got some tips for you.
Yeah, so some tips. First of all, a lot of people, if they're sort of moving towards the divorce, strongly considering divorce, shall we say, if they have what they believe to be a narcissist spouse or some kind of borderline, some kind of personality disorder spouse,
Sure.
they typically think, because they've been so weakened by that relationship, that they must litigate, that they need a shark. Because their experience is they've become this small, weak person,
Right.
and that they can't possibly come to a mediation and stand up for themselves. And
Or feel like they can get anywhere.
so they can get anywhere,
right?
And I'm not saying that's not possibly true, but there's an enormous ability to have this true cathartic experience. If you're emerging from this marriage where you've been this sort of subsumed spouse, to really educate yourself, using information to really empower you to sort of take yourself back, take your personal power back. So using someone like Lori, get your financial savvy on, like get informed. Having an excellent therapist who's going to help you support your own personal growth. Forget the marriage therapy at this point. You're not healing a marriage, you're trying to heal yourself, and you're trying to ask yourself important questions about why is this okay for me? And then, find a mediator who's trained. Like you said, what training do we have? Well, I have over 300 hours of training as a mediator, and probably, gosh, I don't even know if I can count how many specifically. Well over 100 of them are on some kind of management of all different personality styles in a mediation. There's some great books out there. Bill Eddy is excellent at this. He's local. BIFF, B-I-F-F, Brief, Informative, Firm, and Friendly is his acronym for
Breathe.
how. And he has his whole book on, and there's a YouTube on it. So if you're interviewing mediators, first of all, you would go together, because the narcissist would then pick the mediator and tell you this is so. No, you would go together, interview the mediators, but you really have to interview, not just do you like the person? You know, it's like, so what do you want to know? You want to know what kind of training they have. You want to know what kind of experience they have working. You can't specifically say, I think my husband or my wife's a narcissist. How do you manage narcissists? You know, forget that's not going to fly. But you can certainly say to them, kind of, you know, if you hit an impasse, how would you typically manage that? Do you use caucusing? Have you ever had anybody walk out of a therapy mediation session? How have you managed that? Try to get a gist of how the mediator's responding to these challenges, and are they going, well, that's never happened. They probably shouldn't be your mediator.
Great advice.
Yeah. So that would certainly be a starting point.
Yeah, and I want to back up a little bit because I think there's a misconception that mediation is very kumbaya. We have to be best friends. Like, I could never mediate. So break down what mediation is and why it actually is a good tool for most all people.
Right. Great point. So first of all, no, it's not kumbaya. We don't have to hold hands and all of but you are going to be in the same room, okay? You're going to be in the room together. But there's a process. You know, we break how I operate. Not every mediator. I meet with the couple together in initial consultation. It's really them interviewing me. Am I going to be a good pick for them? And me getting a sense of, you know, what kind of mediation services they're going to need. If they have children, I usually break it into 5 sessions. So we'll start in an introductory way, going through a topics list, deciding what they are going to need to negotiate, okay? And I remind them they're negotiating. I'm facilitating their negotiation, okay? I'm not the judge. So I'm really helping them to have difficult conversations in a safe, protected environment. I'm giving them a lot of information to work with, but I'm not giving them advice. I'm there as a neutral. And
you're like a referee almost.
Yeah, and I recommend that they get their own legal advisors. I think that's really a best practice. And they ideally one financial neutral, so they're not spending silly amounts of money. And so really in the beginning, we're trying to get through the investigative process. What do you have? You know, and are there any matters around the children? Do you have any special needs? You know, are there any danger, safety issues? Is anybody falling asleep drunk on the couch every night? Like, what's going on in this family dynamic that's going to need to be addressed in the mediation? There's no such thing as a case that can't be mediated. There's only a mediator that can't mediate a case. Every single case is going to come to a conclusion.
Right, which means that every single marriage or divorce in this case is eligible for mediation.
Every single one. It's a question of, do you have the right mediator? Because eventually, either a judge is going to decide it for you, you've lost all control, or you're going to decide it for the two of you, where you get to maintain control, manage your costs, do it in a completely confidential environment. Mediation has that, you know, that get smart, dome of silence. The evidence code says that if it happens in mediation, unlike Vegas, it actually stays in mediation.
And you can, as she said, you can use outside attorneys. I mean, you know, narcissists are notorious for dragging out the process, right? They don't like how the mediation's going. All of a sudden, the mediator somehow that they thought was fair is all of a sudden not fair, right? Or, you know, they're arguing about financial data, or, you know, I don't have to pay you spousal support, or whatever it may be, or I'm the victim when really the other person's the victim. So, you know, I think it really takes a strong mediator, experienced mediator to keep everything on track. But I think, you know, divorcing a narcissist is very, very difficult.
It is.
Because they may fire the mediator. They may fire 3 attorneys. And I feel bad for the person who's married to the narcissist, because narcissist divorces can be very expensive, unfortunately.
Especially if they end up in litigation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, because then they'll be going, oh, it's just the discovery and everything, it gets so expensive. Yes, very expensive.
So you could go halfway through the process and one member of the party could say, I'm out, I don't want to do this anymore?
Absolutely. Mediation is a voluntary process. If one person withdraws, it's like a dance, you know. If somebody sits down, you're not going to strap them to your ankle and drag them along the dance floor and say we're still dancing. But you will have already accomplished something in mediation, okay? I mean, it's very rare that you haven't already established what your issues are going to be, made some traction on those, and ideally, if you're coming into that process, you've kind of centered yourself. Because the litigation process, we say it's no fault. Well, it's no fault when it comes to assets. Parenting is not no fault in California. It's not no fault anywhere.
Whole other story.
Right. So if a narcissist gets into a courtroom and there's parenting concerns, suddenly you're going to be hearing something that you did 12 years ago, you know, when you went through a traffic light. You're going to hear, it's going to be a slinging bloodbath, very expensive. And again, mediation can even come up with what's known as a parallel parenting plan, where you minimize the contact between, maybe the drop-off is at daycare, and the dog
We
goes,
used to have
goes to
drop
the
off
doggy
at
care.
Starbucks,
Exactly.
yeah, with my husband and his daughter.
Yeah, it's to avoid intersections of the parents, that all conversations are kept on Our Family Wizard is a great tool, for example, where it documents everything and would be available to a court if it ever fell into litigation. So the mediator, if they see that this is high conflict couple, can already give them strategies to keep parenting. Because unlike every other deal, when you break up a business partnership, they don't keep exchanging kids
It's
every
done.
day,
That's
right?
it.
When you break up a marriage with children of any age, and we only maybe exchange them till they graduate high school, but we're always going to be parents ideally, right? It's going to be a wedding, a funeral, a graduation, an 80th birthday party.
Right.
So what you want the process to accomplish is how to give them this vehicle to keep working together, even in their own parallel universe if need be, so that the children are not destroyed in the process, because there's nothing more tragic.
Right. So let's talk about the other side of mediation, which isn't mediation, but the litigious side of it, because you actually were a litigator in another life, right?
And she
My first life.
coaches now, so tell me, you coach people who are going through litigation.
People who have to self-represent because they don't have money or just want to because they are maybe post-judgment and they feel now, I've been in the courtroom enough times, I want to do it myself. I do all the document preparation for them, and then I offer coaching. So, having been a trial attorney for 20 years, I certainly know what it's like to be in the courtroom.
Paint that picture for us. What is it like to be in the courtroom? Because if somebody's debating, should I hire an attorney and go to court, or should I mediate? I want them to have a really clear understanding of the nightmare they are in for.
Well, it's very hard to be your own attorney. I'm not going to pretend. But the reality is the costs are prohibitive for so many people. And, a recent stat I heard is that, at least in the Vista Courthouse, by the time people are finishing a case, 80% of the litigants are unrepresented. They do not have a
because
trial.
they've already drained
They've
their
already
money
drained
for,
their bank
the,
accounts.
for the lawyers
Just
and asked their
ran
parents for
out.
money and the credit card. I see this all the time. I mean, look, in
Their
LA,
retirement's gone.
I know a woman in LA, she's using an attorney. She's married to a high-ranking financial executive. Of course, she says he's a narcissist. I don't know if he is or not. Everyone seems to be a narcissist.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But her attorney is $750 an hour, and I said to her, "Why aren't you?" And they've just filed some
1
preliminary,
hour.
just filed some preliminary paperwork, and the bill was $12,000. And I said, "Why aren't you considering a mediator?" No, he's a narcissist. I need the big guns for this. So don't be intimidated by that. Don't think you need the big guns. You can have big guns with a mediator. You just and it's and then I've seen people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just unbelievable. I mean, Claire, you have a lot of lawyers and mediators on the show. You know all this. We all know this, but I think people don't realize this until they go through it.
Well, and at the end of the day, narcissist or not, who wants to drain their bank account?
Right, exactly.
Like at the end of the day, I think we should be able to agree on that. Let's keep the money and divide it amongst ourselves instead of getting attorneys rich.
So how do you deal if you have a narcissist in the marriage, male or female? What are some examples of how, as a mediator, you may help get over some of those obstacles? And what kind of obstacles do they present in session?
Well, they're going to, first of all, a lot of narcissists, they're charming, very charismatic, they want to be liked. They have a huge need to be liked, right? So of course they're going to bring the charm on with me, man or woman. They're going to paint themselves as the cooperative, wonderful person. So they're going to be the victim in this story.
Of course.
And I really start very early on saying that, we're going to go focus on, the planning stages. That I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to decide who I like or who is a better person. I don't ask for the backstory. If somebody had an affair, there's no reason for me to know. Somebody might feel a need to tell me, but there's no particular reason. So what I'm really trying to do is to create this really safe environment where both people feel that they can have this conversation back and forth. And I have this tool that was kind of magical. It's very interesting. I have a whiteboard that's 2 pane glass windows that I happen to put a privacy screen on, and they became my whiteboard. It's amazing how energy moves. When they're eyeball to eyeball, you're in fight, right? When you're side by side, and I move all the energy up to the whiteboard, and I start mapping everybody's ideas, and then we can just erase the ones we don't like. This whole energy moves.
Wow.
This whole energy moves in the room to now, as a team, we're working on a plan.
We're problem solving.
We are
Love it.
problem solving, exactly. We're not arguing anymore. And so I warn them, don't warn them, I let them know early on that my responsibility to them is I'm not going to be a referee, I'm not going to have a whistle, because it's not going to be an argument, it's going to be a negotiation, and here's what a negotiation looks like. So I actually educate them in that first session, and then I keep affirming it. Like, wow, that was a proposal. Did you hear that proposal? Let me help let's break it down. Let's get some more details. I'll put them up on the board.
So you're supporting both of them, and they both feel heard.
Yeah, critical. And really teasing details out, because the weaker person might be like, well, I guess so. Like, okay, if we have to do that. So I'm like, okay, it sounds like you'd maybe be helpful for you to have more details. Let's get the details of the proposal on the board. So I hear all the time, for example, I want 50% custody. Well, my response to that is your children aren't property. We're going to divide up the property 50-50, but we're not going to cut the children into 50% segments.
Right.
So let's talk about a detailed parenting plan and then evaluate whether that's a 40-60 or a 50-50, because we do have to plug that into the calculator. But let's not start off with a claim, I want 50-50.
But you think that's just the immediate, well, right down the middle, this is what's fair. But I would assume that oftentimes people talk through it and realize that their schedule doesn't even necessarily allow for 50-50.
Precisely.
Right?
And it's just a concept they wanted. So that's a stake in the ground. That is a demand. That's not a proposal. So if I can educate people about the difference between putting your stake in the ground and saying, I want 50-50. Well, how about I want a week on, week off schedule with 2 weeks in the summer, and Christmas Eve is important to me. So that's now a whole discussion about what life's going to look like.
Right.
And it still ends up maybe being 50-50.
And it might be 50-50, but we didn't start off with a stake in the ground, because people argue with a stake in the ground.
Right.
Well, you never do 50-50. That's an argument. It's the beginning of an argument.
Well, you're drawing a line, and there's a person on each side of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can people get started if they're looking to mediate with you? And then I'd like you to follow up with, what's the process look like overall? Like, how much of a time commitment is this? What's it going to look like for them?
And cost.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do flat fee mediation, which is fairly unusual here in San Diego.
Yeah.
My fee, if you don't have children, is $3,200. If you have children, it's $3,900. And it's usually 4 sessions without children, 5 with, 2-hour sessions.
Okay.
I really get people rolling on a schedule. I do about 60 divorce mediations a year.
Wow.
So I have a really full practice. So I've really built a system over time to help people stay in their process. Not many people tend to need more time than that. They might need the experts outside the office.
Okay.
So if they don't accomplish it in that time frame, my hourly is only $300 an hour. So I probably have one of the most cost-effective offerings here.
Yes.
I'm in the village of Carlsbad, and I serve all of San Diego County. And the process is they come in for a complimentary 30-minute consultation. Everything's booked from my website, because I want to stay neutral. So don't call me and say, oh, well, I've got you on the phone, 3 more questions. No. I really focus on staying as a neutral party. So they book everything from the website, come into my office together, and all of the meetings are together. If somebody is a distant parent, we'll Skype them in, or we'll Zoom them in, and then we'll work remotely.
Okay.
With document exchange, so that's very possible too.
Doesn't even necessarily have to be local here in San Diego.
And oftentimes, and we refer business to each other, oftentimes Laura will ask a couple to contact me to work out something. Maybe there's a house involved and there's separate property, and maybe I'm doing what's called a more Marsden analysis, or trying to help couples understand what might be 50-50 concerning the different tax treatment of different assets, like retirement plans, or I might value a pension.
Yeah.
We have a lot of folks here that are teachers. I do a lot of work with a lot of teachers. And it's really difficult. I mean, it's even difficult when you're not going through a divorce to even understand a pension. For instance, if you some companies, the older, it's not happening quite often, but a lot of companies will, that if they had a pension, might offer you a lump sum payment or an annuity stream, and it's hard to figure out when you're married, and it can be very controversial when you're divorced. So a lot of what I do is when Laura feels that the couple needs to be a little more educated on certain issues so that they can be able to make proposals to each other in mediation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm cost effective too. I'm $175 an hour. A lot of CDFAs do require retainers, which I do not do because I want to be able to work on small projects because people don't always need a huge commitment
Yeah.
with anybody.
Right.
No, Lori's great at that. It's so huge. It's a big part of the, and then they're able to make proposals because they recognize, I've had couples come in where the wife is totally, I want the house, and he's going to keep the retirement, they think it's equal. Well, maybe the dollars sound similar, but there's a tax base to consider, and then there's capital gains, and can she refi? So my job as a mediator is to flag it all. You know, I start to define for them all these potential obstacles, and they can still make a deal that may not be 50-50, but I want it to be an informed, because a contract is really not a contract unless it's an informed agreement. So Lori helps on that end of it too.
And then you can be really confident when you are sitting in that mediation with you that this is what my life will look like.
Yep.
I'm not making a bad decision. I'm not just agreeing to get through this. You know what the outcome will be at the end of the day.
I'm
and
not
that
going to
you're
be a
gonna
bag
okay.
lady.
Right?
We've heard that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
terrifying. And I even think not being divorced, like I've been in a relationship where we lived together and had everything basically 50-50, all the items and stuff we'd accumulated. And same thing, you're sharing rent, you're sharing everything. How do I take that financial burden for a period of time to be out on my own? So I can only imagine if you have assets that you've been collecting for 30 years potentially, what that would look like. So wonderful to have you ladies here to really keep everyone informed on what life will look like and how to be successful after divorce. Life does go on. Laurie, I'm going to come back to you. What is your takeaway? What's the golden nugget that people should remember about the information you shared?
A couple of things. So again, on spousal support, I want to remind everyone this. If you think divorce may be on the horizon, either now or 5 years from now, please attend my seminar or contact me for a consult, or just I can send you articles, get information about spousal support. I mean, just a quick example. If you could have the same couple, same household, same financial situation, neighbors A, neighbors B. Neighbor A wife was getting $5,000 a month in spousal support. Now, same conditions, neighbor B gets divorced in 2019. Neighbor B may only be getting $3,500 a month in spousal support. $5,000 versus $3,500. This, please get educated on this. Number two, financial abuse in the marriage. If you feel you're being bullied by your husband, reach out to a financial advisor. Ask what can be done. Just and get validation on this.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then number three. Know that when you have a personality disorder in the relationship, a psychopath, a narcissist, what else is there?
Borderline. Doesn't matter.
Please don't feel like you can never leave the marriage. You can. It'll be hard, but you can do it, and there's resources for you. That's my takeaway.
Absolutely, and that's Laurie Itkin. She is the Options Lady, certified divorce financial analyst, and you can check her out at theoptionslady.com. Laura McGee, I've got the Lauries here today to keep me on my toes. Mediator and divorce coach. What is your golden nugget? What should people remember from today?
Well, I would say, first of all, don't think you can't mediate. That every divorce is going to be resolved, and the advantage of mediating with the right mediator is going to be saving a boatload of money. You're going to hopefully preserve your parenting relationship and keep your children out of it. And you're going to have confidentiality arrangements, so you're going to have everything is going to be private, and you're going to reclaim some control. So I think that that's really enormous. The other point I would say is, if you're in the contemplation stage and you're really in one of these difficult marriages and you just don't know how to get out, I'm not a therapist, but I am a divorce coach, and I can help you with strategies. Elevate, it's probably sending you to Lori, elevate your financial awareness of your partnership. Really kind of take the fear out of it, because, what is it? False expectations appearing real. The acronym for fear.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
okay.
let's remove the fear, and let's get a reality check what life after divorce would look like for you. I can run a child and spousal support calculation for you and think, oh, I'm not going to be a bad lady. Oh, I can do that. So if it's something that if you're only in your marriage because you're afraid, let's get rid of the false expectations appearing real.
Absolutely. I love that. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
It's not so scary when you know what to expect.
Right.
It may not be easy, but it's always worth it,
Right,
right? So
exactly.
that's Laura McGee, Leave Strong Divorce Services. You can find her at leavestrong.com. Really straightforward. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate
pleasure.
having you both.
thanks.
Thank you.
This is Real Talk San Diego, bringing you the business of life in America's finest city. As always, thank you so much for watching. Go love everyone. I'm Claire McKee. We'll see you next time.